Hello and welcome to The Natural View. I'm Maggie Jaqua. I'm the content director of WholeFoods magazine, and I'm here with my co-host Todd Pauli of 24 Stories Marketing. Hi, Todd.
Hey Maggie, good to be here with you today.
Good to see you as always. And we have a special guest who's been with us before, but we're thrilled to have Julia Craven back with us. She's the VP of Education and Innovation at Enzymedica, and she's going to talk to us about natural strategies for occasional heartburn. So welcome, Julia.
Thanks so
Hi
much for
Julia.
having me. I always love talking with you guys.
Same.
Absolutely. So this is a significant issue, right? We're talking about occasional heartburn, something that a lot of people are dealing with. What is the prevalence? Can you kind of give us some background on what we mean when we say occasional heartburn, and how many people are dealing with this?
Lots of Americans. That's the answer. It's estimated that 30% of Americans are dealing with heartburn about once a week and 10% almost every day. And so these are huge numbers. And it's something that's really, really an important topic to address anytime we're talking about digestion, because so many people are really suffering with this.
Yeah, so what do you think some of the reasons are? Why is it so prevalent in America?
Well, stress, that's a big one, right? Our stressful lifestyles, the way that we eat food, very rarely anymore are we all sitting around on a regular basis and properly chewing our food and digesting correctly. We're shoving food in our faces as quickly as we can, sometimes at the car, sometimes at our desks. So that's something. Obviously, we know the kind of food. We know that spicy foods, foods that are very, very high in fat can cause heartburn. Those are some of the obvious things. Some of the less obvious things, actually, cigarette smoke, tobacco use has been positively proven to correlate with heartburn because the tobacco actually does something in it. It caused some laxation in the lower esophageal sphincter. That's that area right at the bottom of the esophagus, the top of the stomach, that opens and closes. And so tobacco, alcohol, coffee, chocolate, all of those can also affect the lower esophageal sphincter. And then we just have digestive insufficiency in this country in general. We're eating complex foods, we're eating probably too often, and not whole foods a lot of times. And so it's not just heartburn, but really everybody. Anytime I get on an airplane or I go to a dinner party and I talk about what I do with digestion, they're like, oh my gosh, I need your help. So it's just that heartburn is one of the top things that people really struggle with because it's obvious, you can't ignore it when you have heartburn.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are different things that people can do kind of to get some relief. Can you talk about some of the different strategies to address occasional heartburn?
Sure. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about sort of like what I like to call the conventional way. And that would mean your typical synthetic over-the-counter medications. Now, we've been using things called antacids for years and years. And what those do is they neutralize stomach acid. Neutralizing stomach acid is an okay thing to do every once in a while. Sometimes you need to do that, but it's not something that you want to go doing on long term because what happens is the stomach just starts creating more stomach acid. It's like the body is smarter than the medications. So we don't want to neutralize stomach acid. It actually gets us into a worse position where we have to keep on taking those. Usually they're a calcium carbonate or something like that. The other things that somebody might find if they were going kind of that conventional way would be medications that are either called H2 blockers or proton pump inhibitors. These are very, very commonly sold. They used to be, they used to have to get a prescription, and now you can get, especially those proton pump inhibitors, over the counter. Now, those are really only meant to be used for about 12 weeks, and they are fantastic. They're great if you absolutely need to truly slow down that stomach acid production because you're dealing with something acute, but you're really only supposed to take them for about 12 weeks. Well, now that they're over the counter, people are taking them for a long period of time. And that is not how they are meant to be used. And they can lead to other problems further down the line. Again, we need stomach acid. Stomach acid is what helps us to break down our food. Stomach acid also helps us to break down any pathogens we may have swallowed. So we really want to keep stomach acid around. We just want to keep it where it belongs, which is in the lower stomach.
Makes sense. Well, I think it goes without saying, heartburn's not fun, right? And You have hit on so many points that are for me personally timely, in the sense that I never get heartburn, except for, this is ironic, last night I get home from kid activities. It's 9:30 at night. No joke. I'm eating 2 spicy tacos for dinner. About 3 o'clock, I woke up, felt terrible. I had heartburn. Like, what's this? And I just suffered. I wasn't going to take anything over the counter. And so I tried to drink water and just lay there until I fell back asleep. But I hear there are natural products available, right? So can you fill us in on what some of those natural alternatives would be?
I sure can, and it's really exciting to me too, because there is something called alginic acid, and it's derived from brown seaweed. So it's a completely naturally sourced. It sounds like it might be not be natural when you say alginic acid, but it is. And it has been used since the 60s in Europe for this very reason, to help to treat this occasional heartburn. The way that it works is that when it mixes with your saliva, it opens up in your stomach. It swells. And in that swelling, we call it a raft. That raft helps to hold stomach acid in the lower stomach where it belongs. So it can't go up into the esophagus, which is where you get that uncomfortable sensation. So what the alginic acid does is it just keeps the stomach acid in the lower stomach. So we're still getting digestion. We're still getting all the things that we need from stomach acid, but it's just keeping it where it belongs so we don't have that discomfort. The other cool thing about alginic acid is that as it goes through the digestive system, it actually is still very good for your intestines. It can, it's got like a mucilaginous quality, and we always like that when we're talking about the intestines, because that's helping to kind of nourish and make sure that the intestines have good cellular integrity. So Enzymedica makes a product called Heartburn Soothe, which uses this alginic acid. And again, I love talking about it because there is years and years and years of safety data. It is still being used in Europe today as one of the top remedies for that occasional heartburn. So we have all of this population data. We know it's completely safe. And guess what? It works in under 5 minutes typically. We don't see that a lot with natural products, right? That's pretty exciting when that can happen
Yeah.
with a natural product. So very, very safe, unlike some of that conventional way of treating things, which can have detrimental effects when taken over a long period of time. It's extremely safe, and you're keeping all your stomach acid. You're just keeping it right where it belongs.
Excellent. All right. So Todd could have used that last night. Let's talk lifestyle strategies, because aside from not eating those spicy tacos, maybe at 10:30 at night or whatever, what are some lifestyle strategies that can be helpful? I mean, you mentioned smoking, some of the things we're doing that are really not setting us up to feel good.
So, it's all the healthy lifestyle things, the smoking, avoiding alcohol, and that especially in the evening. And a lot of people have heartburn before bed or at bedtime. What's happening is we're laying down, the acid is coming up, right? And so a lot of times people will have their most complex meal of the day. They'll have that glass of wine with dinner, not knowing that that actually could be the culprit for that discomfort, as they're going to bed. So other things that people don't know is sometimes it's a food intolerance. Dairy is a very, very common food intolerance, which can lead to occasional heartburn. Not a lot of people know that, but it can also be all kinds of other food intolerances: lettuce, tuna, rice. For my friend, it's peaches. So it really, if it's creating that sensation for you, you do just want to stop eating that food. But also healthy things. The people that I really enjoy talking to are the people that are really trying to make all the healthy choices, and yet they're still having this situation happen to them, this occasional heartburn. So yogis tend to get a lot of heartburn. If you think about it, we're going up and down all the time. Swimmers, bodybuilders with bench pressing, they're getting that pressure right here. So even folks who are doing really healthy things and high fats, keto diets, they're really healthy fats, they're good fats, but sometimes that can lead to occasional heartburn as well. So for some of us, even just taking a digestive enzyme can be really, really helpful. Another one is, going back to the lifestyle, is really watching your sleep patterns. There's also a correlation between individuals who are having a tough time sleeping regularly and having that occasional heartburn. Kind of one leads to the other.
Boy, it seems like there are so many different both lifestyle and dietary choices that could affect it. Could you also talk a little bit about low stomach acid? Because I understand that could have an effect as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? We always think about this and we think, oh, it's too much stomach acid. It's because it's, I have too much. That must be why it's coming up. But it actually can be not enough stomach acid as well. So what happens is when we secrete stomach acid in our lower stomach, a signal is sent to that lower esophageal sphincter. And the signal says, time to close, right? Acid's coming in, time for the lower esophageal sphincter to close. Well, if you don't have enough stomach acid, that signal might not ever get sent. Again, then the lower esophageal sphincter is staying open, and what acid you do have may be coming up, giving you that uncomfortable situation. There's also certain medications that can make this happen as well. I should have covered that in lifestyle. But if you're having this on the regular, it might be worthwhile to talk with whether that be your holistic practitioner, your doctor, your super great pharmacist that you've made friends with. They're always good folks to know that say, hey, maybe it's a medication. So again, going back to the low stomach acid, that's really a situation where a lot of people can benefit from what's called betaine HCl. And betaine has been on the market for quite a while, and it's usually mixed with something called pepsin. Enzymedica does not use the pepsin because pepsin is from pig, and we try and make our products vegan whenever we can. But we use a protease TheraBlend that acts like pepsin in the stomach and can help with that signaling to get your lower esophageal sphincter to close. Interestingly, many times if you were to go to a naturopathic doctor or a natural, more holistic practitioner, and you're saying, hey, I want to get off of those conventional medications, it's very hard to do because they can have what's called a rebound effect. And what happens is your body does one of two things. You either start producing a lot of stomach acid and you feel like now you have to stay on those medications, or you're not producing enough stomach acid, the lower esophageal sphincter never closes, and you're feeling like you're having that sensation again. The solution there, again, is that betaine HCl, because it's helping to get your stomach to the acidity where it belongs so that all the signaling is going right and we're beginning to break down our foods with our stomach acid.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, because I have a friend who gets heartburn just every once in a while.
Yeah.
And they've told me about licorice. Is that something that can help?
Yeah. Yep. So licorice is one of those traditional herbs. It's kind of like everyone's great grandmother would have probably made them a cup of licorice tea. It's just one of those perfect, wonderful tummy herbs. And licorice had a resurgence in about the 1940s. And it went from that really yummy tummy tea to they were actually juicing raw licorice. So you get like a really dilute dose that went to a really, really strong dose. And what happened is people's cortisol levels started to spike. They were getting hypertension, edema, not good. And that is because of a component in licorice called glycyrrhizin. So pretty quickly, around the 50s, it was figured out that you could take the glycyrrhizin out of the licorice. And that's what we call deglycyrrhizinated licorice, or for the rest of us, DGL. Now, because we don't, who wants to say that 10 times?
Right. Glad you said it, not me.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try.
So this is different than if you were to go get a licorice herbal capsule. You actually wouldn't want to use that over a long period of time because of that glycyrrhizin. It can spike those cortisol levels. Handy if you're in adrenal fatigue and you're kind of working on that kind of a program. But when we're talking about anything to do with occasional heartburn and digestion, we want to use the safe version, which is the deglycyrrhizinated licorice, or DGL. This is one of the most studied, I'm going to still call it a plant because it is just a little bit altered. It's one of the most studied plants out there, and it is so helpful for all of these kinds of digestive issues. It's especially helpful if someone has any adhesions, like can happen if you're creating too much stomach acid, whether that be in your stomach or even in the duodenum. Sometimes people have that duodenal ulceration and they don't know about it. They just know that something doesn't feel good. Licorice, deglycyrrhizinated licorice has been shown to support the body to recreate that mucosal barrier that's natural in our gut so that our own cells are starting to repair. So most of the studies are done on a 400-to-1 extract of deglycerinated licorice. And, a couple companies have made them for many years. They're in a chocolatey chewable. If you're taking an amount of this, it's really not that much fun. It dries your mouth out completely. So Enzymedica came out with a gummy a few years ago. And what I like about the gummy is that you get a lot better compliance. People are actually going to want to take the gummy versus the chalky tablet. It does need to be chewed. All of the studies show that it does need to be chewed because you want it to mix with your own saliva. So that's why we don't do DGL in a capsule any longer.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about digestive enzymes. Do
Mm-hmm.
those play a role? Can those be a solution as well?
Yeah, they sure can. What's interesting is I've worked with Enzymedica for a long time. We didn't used to have all these really great, cool heartburn products. We've had one product for quite a while called Acid Soothe. But what we noticed over the years is that many times people, if they just started taking a digestive enzyme, their occasional heartburn would really start to back off. And we thought, what's that all about? You think about it, it makes logic sense. If we don't have enough digestive enzymes that are being produced in the gastric secretions of our stomach, we don't have enough tools to break down the food, enough tools for the job. What's our body going to do? It's going to create a lot more acid. It's the tool it has. And so sometimes bringing digestive enzymes in can be just the trick all on its own to help to balance that out and also to help to break down the food so your body isn't working so hard. You don't have to secrete as much, stomach acid to try and get that breakdown of food. The digestive enzymes are helping that along the way. Because in the stomach, we secrete a lot of protein digesting enzymes and a lot of fat digesting enzymes. And if we don't have enough of those, think about it, if your food's not breaking down, then what can happen? It's going to your intestines. We're having a situation where gas is being created. Another thing that can happen is that when there's intestinal gas, it pushes up on the stomach, again, causing that acid to come up towards the lower esophageal sphincter. So any way you slice it, a digestive enzyme is absolutely going to be helpful when you're in this situation.
Excellent. I mean, you've talked through so many options already, but we know nature is a wonderful thing that provides for us. Are there any other options we should know about? And also, if maybe you could talk through why you might choose one over the other.
Sure. There is another option that Enzymedica makes. It's actually one of our first products, and it's a product called Acid Soothe. And one of the main ingredients in Acid Soothe is an ingredient called zinc carnosine, and it is literally the mixture of the mineral zinc and the amino acid L-carnosine put together. And in the human clinical studies with zinc carnosine, what it showed was that that was also able to really support the body for cellular regeneration if it's in a situation of having those adhesions. It also has some really cool herbs in there, papaya leaf, gotu kola, and marshmallow root. I love marshmallow root. It's one of the ones I call an herbal band-aid because it's just soothing. It's nice and kind of mucilaginous, sort of comes in there and helps to soothe everything down and calm it. This also has some digestive enzymes, but it's really low in protease because if somebody has been suffering for quite a while, again, they may have those adhesions, a little bit of cellular weakness. We don't want to put too much protease in there. So this is a really gentle one that you can take at the end of your meal. So the Acid Soothe product is kind of what I think of as your ongoing support product. And then for anybody though, alginic acid, heartburn soothe, absolutely. Everyone needs it, including you in your medicine cabinet for the 9 p.m. tacos.
Right. When they do occur.
Because
It'll
it's going
happen
to work
again,
so
Todd.
quickly.
No. Yeah, you're right.
It comes in a tablet, but it also comes in a liquid, which is a really handy thing to take with you if you're traveling. Sometimes when we're traveling, that can also cause it. We're eating different kinds of foods and just the stress of traveling in general. And so Heartburn Soothe, that alginic acid is really it's the one everyone kind of needs in their medicine chest for the more quick action type of formula. And then the DGL, many people do the DGL ongoing. If they're a person that is working with this condition and it's kind of happening more regularly, DGL is just so great for helping to modulate those inflammation levels so people are feeling better over a longer period of time more consistently. So can you take them all? The answer is yes. We don't want you to need to. The ideal thing is to actually figure out why it's happening. And again, keeping a food journal is always a really good idea, because you may not think that it is something that's so simple, but you notice that every time you eat strawberries or something, oh, this is when it's happening. And so it's always about having that awareness, and that awareness about what we're putting in our bodies, and not just if it's not healthy, but even the healthy things can cause issues.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
so interesting. Yeah, that like peaches, like who would have thought? I certainly
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some of those that if you didn't keep a food journal, you could go months, years without necessarily making those connections. So
Yeah.
that's an important point.
It really is. You learn so much by just jotting down everything you eat, and then, just a couple notes about how did you feel that day. I've
Hmm.
learned a lot through the years. And like, how did it affect your sleep? Did it
Yeah,
affect your mood? Did it affect your focus? Little things that you may just think are happening, you can really track very easily with the food journal.
Yeah, that is great advice. So what else? Anything else you want to leave us with before we part ways? Any final takeaways?
I just really want to leave people with the knowledge that there is a natural solution. If we've got about a third of the population that is working with this, that is dealing with trying to figure out a solution, really, I know that it's tempting to go and take, kind of the conventional way. I like to call it the old way. And those medications, they do work. But there have been some really, really strong correlations with other big problems downstream if you're on them for a period of time. To say the least, there's studies coming out all the time about the correlation between these medications and the onset of dementia. You can find that information easily online. It's inconclusive, but the thing is that why when you have a natural option, why do that when you can use alginic acid, you can use DGL, you can eat smaller meals, you can not eat a huge meal before bed, you can try digestive enzymes. There are so many options before we start to go down that path. And if that's a path that's already been gone down, you actually can get off of them. It is absolutely possible. You would just want to work with a qualified healthcare practitioner who knows what they're doing to help you to step down from those into a more long-term solution that is better for your whole body.
that's excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Well, Julia, thank you so much. So many great insights. Thank you to Enzymedica for bringing us this information, and we appreciate it. I know you'll keep us up to date on more topics in the future. We always just love having you on the show.
Yeah.
I
Thanks,
really
Julia.
appreciate you guys and everything that you're doing. Thank you.